thought we all came over here on slave ships, but they can't find one ship. Anybody know that? Did anybody know that? And don't get caught up in the CGI AI photos.
Teach.
That class coming next. No slave ships. Nobody under no ship for 3 months, man. It's impossible.
That's right.
It's impossible, man. And don't get caught up. Don't if you not really open-minded, you're gonna believe what somebody else tell you. No research, no history, no fact checking. That's how we roll. That's how we've been rolling all our lives.
Bring it out.
Did anybody ever question Christmas?
Bring it out. Bring it out.
As long as you're getting gifts, you're good, ain't you? Who would want to question Christmas, man? Who want to question these doctrines? They gonna look at the title and their attitudes gonna go because they not truly spiritual.
Right.
To open up to think that no one has did no research, proven any facts, bring any documentation, why they don't have a manifest? How many? They'll give you what they want you to think, and you'll think it.
Thanks.
That's what the television do for you. That's what men do for you. You're gonna find out today. We didn't. Let me tell you something. Whatever ways or means that some of these slaves got here, they wasn't called slaves at first. They was called indentured servitude.
That's right.
Let me tell you something. They got bamboozled too. Come over here and work your 7 years. Man, let me tell you something. You working 7 years for a trip over here? Think somebody gonna treat you fairly after your term is up? Well, we're gonna find out today. We're gonna find out today. 1 Thessalonians 5:21. See, because I put the name out there, some dude, you adding and taking from. That let me know that boy, whoever it was, got an issue with himself. He don't even know what he's speaking, but he's speaking. And that's what we do as a peoples. We speak things that we have no understanding. Read that out.
1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 21. Prove all things. Hold fast that which is good.
Somebody prove to me that they came over here on ships other than the pictures that you got.
Bring it out.
The images that you've been instilled in your mind with. The classes that they don't title. That's the stuff that they put out there on them street corners, the slave ships and all that. And they have no documentation. Tell them to give you the name of that ship that they posted.
Bring it out.
Well, what it has got to do with anything? See, it's important. If you got an image, you should have information to back it.
That's right.
They told us we were slaves. And you know, a slave is just someone that's up on a system, being oppressed. A slave really is someone.
All right. All praises, honor, and glory goes to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Raha Kakadash. Double honors and salutations to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth. Shalom to you, Akim and Aqua. Shalom to the speckled bird that's scattered around the four corners of the globe that may look like the other nations but go back to the Israelites. Shalom to the hopeful elect. This is your brother Kalak Har. Come back at you with another video, and as you've seen in the beginning, this group, One Body and Reprobates, they have went astray and teaching wayward doctrines and about, the latest topic is we didn't go into slavery, and there's a lot of confusion out here about it. I mean, it's not confusion to the people in the know, but it's a confusion because you have the Native Americans, tribe of Gad, tribe of Reuben, the Indians, so-called Indians. They once looked like dark-skinned, African Americans at one point. And that goes to show you the power of the Lord and how he can switch things up and because the tribe of Gad, the Seminole Indians, they've been in captivity for quite some time. So they're going to look a little bit different than your average, so-called black man. Same thing with the Latino tribes, they're going to look different because of the captivity they've been through, So there's a stumbling block there when, people go into our own people say, oh, we've been here the whole time. And then you got other, of our people saying we all came here on slave ships. And that's the stumbling block, like I said, that the Lord put on so you wouldn't understand. But the ones in the know, they understand that we did for sure come here on slave boats, according to Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter and the 68th verse. Deuteronomy 28:68, and the Lord Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt. Egypt means bondage, again with ships. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and thou shalt be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no one shall buy you. When you go into that word buy, nobody can redeem you. Only the Lord is going to redeem us, back to him, to his folk. Because even in the 64th verse, we can even go to Deuteronomy 4:27. Highlight it. Deuteronomy 4:27, and the Lord Yahweh shall scatter you among the nations, and ye shall be left few in number among the heathen, whither the Lord shall lead thee. Verse 28, and there ye shall serve gods, the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. So we were scattered throughout all these nations, and we were going to be worshiping other gods, i.e. the Christian God, Christianity, Buddha, Allah, all of these various different type gods that we were, the nations that we're driven to serve. We go back to Deuteronomy 28:48. Deuteronomy 28:48, there shalt thou serve thy enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And she put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he had destroyed thee. Now, if you search yoke of iron around thy neck, you're going to see brothers with yokes of iron around their neck. The only, you so-called Negroes that came on this transatlantic slave trade. You have yokes of iron upon your neck. Lord, the Lord, scattered us when we came into the Americas on slave ships. Let's get, because if we get second Esdras, because even if you say you've been here the whole time, that's going off too. So like, just making sure. Second Esdras 13th chapter. This is talking about the northern tribes. Second Esdras 13:40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, who Salmanasar the king of Assyria led away captive, and they carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. Verse 41, but they took the counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a country which never mankind dwelt. Verse 42, that they might keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land, and they entered to the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. Verse 44, for the Most High then showed them signs for them, and held still the flood till they were passed over. Verse 45, for though the country was a great way to go, namely a year and a half, the same region is called Arsareth, another word for Americas. Then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come. You know, who is that that's beginning to come? It's you, Deuteronomy 28:68. The Jews, you know, the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi were considered the southern kingdom, the Jews. You know, the other kingdom, the northern kingdom, was considered the Israelites. Jerusalem, you know, various names, but the Israelites, Jerusalem. That's why you hear sometimes in the scriptures Judah and Jerusalem. Let's get Luke, because even the Savior prophesied again about going into slavery. Let's start at the Luke 21:20. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee into the mountains. You know, flee into the mountains, talking about west part of Africa. And let them which are in the midst of depart out. You know, go scatter everywhere. And let them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these are the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and with them that give suck in those days, for there shall be a great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be held away captive unto all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the Gentiles be fulfilled. Verse 25, and there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, and with perplexity, the sea and the raging wars, or waves roaring. And men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those which things are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And it goes into, you know, you see the Son of Man in the clouds. But that's going into, you know, that's going into what we're going to see when the Lord comes back. But those few verses up, captain to all nations, you know, we went into the west coast of Africa before being, you know, sold to the Europeans and sent over here on cargo slave ships, you know. And then, like, so they say it never happened. Let's look up some articles real quick. I got some pulled up. Who bought slaves to America? Now, if you read this article, crescent.icticdigital.org, but it shows you the name of the ship, the real owners, and the nationality of these people. You know, because, you know, Ish, you know, Amalekites, they funded this thing. They funded the slave trade. So you got the name of the ship, Abigail, the owners, Aaron Lopez, Moses Levy, and Jacob Franks, and these were so-called Ish. You know, I ain't gonna say the word for the video, but the Crown, Isaac Levy and Nathan Sampson, you know, you see who they are. Nassau Moses Levy, you know, Moses Levy had 4 sisters, Anne Eliza, Justice Bosch, and John Abrams, Prudent Betty, you know, Hester. These are, look at all these, you know, who owned them. And this is documented history. So how could you say that it's that stumbling block, you know, like it says in Romans 11 and the 9th verse, 8th verse. It's that stumbling block that the Lord has put out, because you see all the you know, we the original Indians and we this and we that, and you know, they don't understand. Even if you are saying that, you still came over here, you know, through Osea and Salamander, you know, Assyrians. Believe the Babylonians was taking over the Assyrians or something like that. You know, there was a big, you know, fight, and it was like, yo, we can get out of here. Can you take us to another place? What was I getting? Salakia, Romans. Romans 11 and 9, and David said, let that table be made a snare, let this truth be made a snare and a trap and a stumbling block and a recompense unto them. Let their eyes be darkened that they might not see, and bow down their back away. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? The Most High would forbid, but rather through their fell salvation is coming to the Gentiles, for to provoke them to jealousy. You know, those Gentiles it's talking about those Israelites that you know, was practicing the heathen customs, you know, that didn't know they was Israelites, but they thought they was something else. You know, Romans, like, this letter is to the Israelites amongst the Romans. It's not to all the Romans that live in Italy. You know, it's to the Israelites that's amongst the Romans, that's calling themselves Romans in those times. But like I said, this is a stumbling block. Let's get our account in Baruch, or you were sold into the nations, not for your destruction, but because you moved the Most High to wrath, ye were delivered into the enemies. So you wasn't sold to be destroyed forever. You were sold, you know, for a little bit of time, because we broke the law, statutes, and commandments. You know, if starting at Deuteronomy 28 in the first verse, if we did all of that, we wouldn't be in this situation. But it's the Lord's movie, so the Lord made that happen that way, so He can, you know, let people know who He is. You know, let these people down here know who He is, you know, and whatnot. Let's go to Joel. Three and 3. Joel 3 and 3. Let me start at the second verse. I will gather all nations and bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and my heritage Israel, who they have scattered among the nations and parted my land, and they have cast lots of my people, and have given a boy for a harlot, and sold a girl for wine, that they might drink. You know, so you were sold for peanuts, Jay. You know, you can take it back to the Silk Road trade. You know, cotton started in India. You know, so I'm pretty sure during the Persians and the Medes, you know, Elam, East Indians, they had ass picking cotton left and right. You know, I'm pretty sure. You know, this is a lesson for another time. But yeah, Jake, you were sold. All of us were sold and went through some type of, a lot of type of subjection under these other nations. The scriptures talk about, here it is right here, Jeremiah 50:33, thus say the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. Verse 34, their Redeemer is strong, the Lord of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. So the Lord is coming back to help us out, to get us through this, man. And we're going to need it, especially the elect. The elect is going to need those superpowers, because Esau going to come in like a flood. The enemy going to come, for us, because they know their time is short. They know what's going on. They know the Lord, the top wicked elite know the Lord is coming back and know what his power is. But for you everyday so-called Americans, you don't have no what clue is going on. That's why it's imperative to, be an Israelite in this time. You can't convert. It just is what it is. Salakia. Let's get, I didn't want this to be too long, but we went into slavery. We've been throughout slavery for a long time. What makes it different now? This is the last captivity. What else I want to get? I think Baruch 2, Baruch 3. Yes. Baruch 3, behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse. We under those curses, and to be a subject to payments. It was on those auction blocks, according to all the iniquities of our father which departed out of the land, out of the Lord our power. Hear, Israel, the commandments of life. Give ear to understanding wisdom. So we was subject to payments, man. You was on auction blocks. You was sold for wine and silk and cane sugar and weapons and all of this stuff. You're subject to payments, Jake. So how could you say you're not? And then even then, when the Europeans got here, you Native Americans, what you think you did? You rebelled and tried to. But you went into slavery even more, like the scriptures say, we was oppressed together. Jeremiah 50:33. Judah and Jerusalem was oppressed together. Or Israel and Judah were oppressed together, Salakia. So you ain't, when they came here, you was like I said, we all been in captivity. Over and over and over. So there's no way around it. There's no, even during the Greek times, what's that? 2 Maccabees 7. Where they I just read the first verse. It came to pass that 7 brothers and their mother were taken compelled by the king the law of tasting swine's flesh, and was tormented and scourged with whips. Jake, come on, man. You've been in captivity, and people have been doing this. These other nations been doing this for a long time. So, oppression makes a oppression makes a wise man mad. Let's get that real quick. Surely, oppression make a wise man mad, and a gift destroys the heart. So we've been oppressed every day we wake up, and it's nerve-wracking, But remember, the Lord is long suffering, so you got to go through this, man. You got to go through this, You got to endure this long suffering that the Lord put us in, because at the end, we're appreciating this wickedness, so we can be righteous. We seeing all this wickedness in the earth. We seeing how the wicked operate. We seeing how they control the people, control the earth. What's that in? Is it Psalms 50th chapter? I want to say it's Psalms 50, where the heathen, the rulers, don't know us. I'm paraphrasing. I might be wrong, in the wrong book, but the rulers of the people, don't know how to rule the people, don't know how to govern the earth, and things of that nature. So we're getting a dose of it, and we're saying what not to do, so we can appreciate the righteousness. So we got to endure this wickedness and see what we see, so we can get on to the righteousness. So with that said, I hope you was edified. Shalom to the hopeful elect. Shalom to the Akim and Aqua brothers and sisters. Shalom to the speckled bird. Double honors, salutations to the apostles, elders of Great Millstone. This is your brother Kalak Har, the water. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah. See you on the next video, Lord willing. Shalom. I just want to come back and come into some of these articles, like the good ship Jesus beginning the slave trade, slaving vessels in 1563. Jesus of Lubbock, was chartered to a group of merchants by Queen Elizabeth I, becoming involved in the Atlantic slave trade and smuggling under John Hawkins, who organized 4 slave voyages to West Africa and the West Indies between 1562 and 1568. Now, how should we be calling on the name Jesus if they brought us here on slave ships? Why would you even say Jesus Christ? You crazy if you say that shit. When a ship brought your stupid ass over here. Our people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. When people are foolish, they have rejected knowledge. The Lord's going to reject your ass too. Let's get another one. Archaeologists in Mexico identified the first Mayan slave ship. The ship had been used to take Mayans captured during the 1847 to 1901 rebellion to work in sugarcane fields in Cuba. What are they talking about? There's no proof. There's no, don't believe those CIG photos and all of this stuff. This is documented proof in history, man. Archaeologists in Mexico has identified a ship that carried Mayan people into virtual slavery in the 1850s. The first time such a slave ship had been found, the wreckage of the Cuban-based paddle wheel steamboat was found in 2017, but wasn't identified until researchers from the National Institute of Anthropology and History checked contemporary documents and found it was the ship La Union. The ship had been used to take Mayans captured during the 1847 to 1901 rebellion known as the War of the Castes to work in sugarcane fields in Cuba. Slavery was illegal in Mexico at the time, but operators. Similar ships have reported deceived Mayans left landless by the conflict and the signs on as contract workers, often in Cuba, though they were treated like slaves. So you can read that article. Let's go to another one. This was 2 days ago. Possible 19th century slave ship found near Brazil, Rio de Janeiro state, Brazil. Reports that the possible wreckage of a 19th century slave ship has been found off the coast of Brazil in the area of Angra dos Reis. As many as 5.5 enslaved Israelites, because they got Africans there, were taken to Brazil between 1540 and 1860. Researchers from the Afro Origins Institute, the Fluminense Federal University, the Federal University of Sergipe, Slovakia, and their colleagues think this ship may have been used by slave traders Nathaniel Gordon to transfer some 500 enslaved Israelites from Mozambique to Bakucha in 1851. At the time, the slave trade was illegal in Brazil, and some suspect that Gordon sank the vessel to evade police. Gordon was eventually captured and hanged in the United States in 1862 for violating the privacy law of 1820 to read about enslaved Israelites in a Brazilian mining town. Go to Off-Grid. Yeah, you can read that too. 2 days ago now. It's fresh. Slave trade digital collection. You know, it's all here. Look at that. Look at you, Jake. Sugarcane look like. Cane cutters. Development of the plantation system. You know, it's all here, Jake. What more do you need? What's this? Africa and the transatlantic slave trade. From the beginning and the middle of the 15th century, Africa entered into a unique relationship with Europe that led to the devastation of the population of Africa, but contributed to the wealth and development. Yeah, look what happened when you take the Israelites out of the west coast of Africa. That shit crumbled, man. That shit ain't right. It ain't right, you know. From then until the end of the 19th century, Europeans began to establish a trade for African captives. At first, this tracking only supplemented a trade in human beings that already existed within Europe, in which Europeans had enslaved each other. Some enslaved Africans also reached Europe, Israelites, the Middle East, and parts of the world mid-15th century as a result of a trade in human beings that long existed in Africa. Because it's Arab sodas, the African sodas, the European sodas, or the Indians, Moab. You know, when you even go into our enemies, let's get that real quick. Let's start at the second verse. Gotta get all this real quick. Psalms 83, for lo, the enemies make a tumble, and they hate thee, have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against the hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. The name of Israel may be no more in remembrance, for they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. And look who they name first: the tabernacles of Edom, the so-called white man, and the Ishmaelites, the Arab man, Moab, and the Hagarenes. So Moab is the so-called Chinese man. Hagarenes are another sect of Africans. So today you would be called the so-called white man, the Arab man, the Chinese man, and the African man. Gabal and Ammon, Japanese, Amalekites, that's the top head of the Edomites. The Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. And when you go into that Tyre, it's talking about the coast, the western part of the coast. you know, likened to, I think it's talking about the west coast of Africa, Tyre. You know, let's hold on. Let's see something real quick. Bear with me. Bear with me. What was I looking for? It's the other one. It's not. Okay. City of the Mediterranean coast. You know, so on the coast, out there on the Mediterranean coast, that's where we were sold at, you know, some of the selling. That's why it says 15th century, as a result of the trade in human beings that long existed in Africa, many of these African captives crossed the Sahara and reached Europe and other destinations within North Africa were translated across the Indian Ocean. Transatlantic slave trade began in the 15th century, the 1400s, when Portugal and subsequently other European kingdoms were finally able to expand overseas and reach Africa. The Portuguese Slovakia first began to kidnap people from the west coast of Africa and take those that were enslaved back to Europe. It is estimated that by the early 16th century, as much as 10% of Lisbon population was of African descent. After European discovery of the American continent, the demand of African Israelite labor gradually grew as a source of labor, but European and Americans were found to be insufficient. Slovakia. But yeah, you can read that, you know, get into that, but I just wanted to bring that out. Forgot to